Hey, it's me, Crystal, and today I'm going to show you how to make this super squishy and comfy pillow that has a removable cover so you can wash it. And it only took me about an hour to about maybe an hour and 15 minutes to make this whole thing. And I'm going to show you how to do it. So here's the yarn I used was this Bernat Blanket Big. And for a 17 by 17 pillow, you'll need 3 skeins of this. I'm using the color light teal. And you're also going to need a big crochet hook. For this one, I'm using my T or 30mm hook from Furls. And I just absolutely love this hook. It's so beautiful. This wood grain, I just love it. And you're also going to need a pillow form. For this, I'm using a 17 by 17 inch one, but you can use a different size and I'll explain how to customize it for a different size pillow. This is how thick it is. And what you're going to do basically is we're going to make a chain that goes across the front side of the pillow from seam to seam. And then we're going to make rows until it's twice the length of the pillow, plus 6 inches to account for the overlap. So to get started, you're going to make a slip knot, take your yarn and just wrap it around your fingers and pull through a loop. Pull on the tails and that'll tighten it up. And you're going to put that on your crochet hook. Pull the long tail to tighten it up, and we're going to start chaining. For my size pillow, which was 17 by 17, I did 12 chains. And just check and see, you want to make sure it goes from seam to seam, but doesn't go any further than that. You don't want it to be too big or it won't, your pillow will look really droopy. So if your pillow is a different size, just go with the width of your pillow. And now what we're going to skip the first chain and we're going to work a single crochet into the second chain. So all you have to do is insert your hook into that chain. Then you're going to yarn over and pull up a loop. You'll have 2 loops on your hook. Then yarn over again and pull it through both loops. And it's just a single crochet. And you're going to go ahead and single crochet in all the remaining chains in the same manner. So 2 loops on my hook and then I yarn over again and pull through. So just repeat that until you get to the last chain. Here I'm at my last chain, so I'm just going to go ahead and make my last single crochet. And then here's what it'll look like at this point. And I like to just go ahead and do a test fit, make sure we're still good on the width. I don't want it to be too big. You want it to go right from the seam to the seam. I'll show you, like, see, it goes right to the edge of the seam and the same on this one. You don't want it to go over or your pillow cover will end up being too big and it will just look sloppy. There we go, we're good. It's a lot easier to fix it now if you need to. But if you're good too, then go ahead and we'll put our hook back in our loop here, tighten it all back up. And for the next row, what we're going to do is we're going to make a chain. So just chain 1, then you're going to turn. And then that chain 1 doesn't count as a stitch or anything. We're going to single crochet in that first stitch that the chain's coming out of. So just go through the stitch. In case you're new, I'll explain what you're doing here. You're going under both loops, so there's a V and you're going under it. Then you yarn over and pull through, 2 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through again. And that's a single crochet again. And then just repeat that for each stitch across. So this is a very easy crochet pattern. It's just very, very large. So just continue doing your single crochets in each stitch all the way across until you get to the end, and then again we'll chain 1, turn, and repeat. So here I am at the end. I'm at my last stitch. Go ahead and single crochet in that. So you're just going to continue making rows until it's twice the length of your pillow cover plus 6 inches, which accounts for the overlap. And for me, that ended up being 22 rows. Then again, we're going to yarn over, turn, and single crochet all the way down the row again. For my pillow, I ended up doing 22 rows, and that was the length that I needed. Yours might be slightly different depending on the size of your pillow cover. You'll find a link down in the description to the blog post for this pattern that will explain more about how to customize your pillow size. It won't be long until you run out of yarn. I think, let's see, I made it about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then 8.5. I made 8.5 rows before I ran out of yarn. So you're gonna just grab your next ball of yarn and you're gonna hold the two ends together. It's really easy to add new yarn with this because it's so grippy. It doesn't really slip out or anything. So you're just gonna make sure all your tails are on one side. Then you're gonna insert into the next stitch and just grab your new yarn. You don't have to worry about that old yarn tail right now. And pull it through and go ahead and complete your stitch. Just put your yarn tails together on the back side. And then I like to go ahead and do one more stitch just to really anchor it in place. And then I like to go back, and sometimes the stitch will be kind of loose from where you added the tail. So if you go in and you notice one of the loops is kind of big, you can just adjust that and pull it through. And this yarn really holds in place well, so you don't have to worry about it. And we'll deal with those later. But just every time you change your yarn or you add new yarn, make sure your tails are just all on the same side. And we'll just hide that on the inside and it won't be a big deal. We'll tie a knot in that later. But in the meantime, just continue going until you, if you're doing the same size as me, until you have 22 rows. And then I'll show you the next step. All right, here we are. I have my 22 rows completed. And see, on the inside is where all my yarn tails are. And I had to change yarn. I had to use 2.5 balls of yarn, probably, maybe a little more than half. But here we are at the end. So all you have to do now is cut the yarn, and we're going to pull that tail through the loop. And it's going to leave fluff everywhere. And then just pull it to tighten it up and brush all the fluff away. And now we're going to tie the knots in our yarn tails that are together just to make it a little more secure, because we are going to probably be washing this at some point and we don't want anything to come undone. So I just take the tails and tie a basic knot. And since this is on the inside, it's not going to be showing. I'm not even going to weave in the tails. I'm just going to leave them and make my life easier. But then you're going to take your pillow form and just lay it on in the middle, and then you're going to fold the two sides up like an envelope. And you want it to overlap on one side like this. You want one row of it. So there's a row under there and then a row on top that are overlapping. And that is how we're going to make it removable. And then I grabbed a piece of yarn that was about an arm's length long, but it's probably longer than you need because I had a lot of excess. So if it's at least 2 times the length of your side, you should be good. And then you're going to start over here. I started on the left. You could start on the right. Doesn't really matter. And you're just going to find the 2 loops on the bottom side and the 2 loops on the top side. We're going to do a whip stitch with this yarn, but to start, we're just going to thread it through here on the corner and tie a knot to hold it in place. So I'm just bringing it up to the bottom loops and then up to the top 2 loops. And there's going to be a stitch kind of in the middle that's kind of the corner. Now we're just going to not worry about that right there. So just as long as there's no gap, you're good. You don't want it to have a gap there. But tie a knot here to secure your yarn. And then I'm just going to feed this tail into the inside and we'll just sew around it and it'll be fine. You won't even know it's there. Okay, so now we're going to start our whip stitch, and I'm just using my fingers. I'm not using any hook or needle or anything like that. And we're just going to go on the sides of each row, go down through the top 2 loops of the next row. And then you're going to go down through the bottom loops of matching up on the other side. And I try to find 2 loops each time. I didn't want to go through just 1 loop if I could help it, just so it didn't look, I don't know, I thought it would look neater that way. and pull it to tighten, and then you're just going to repeat that again. So go down a little bit further, find 2 loops, bring your yarn down through them, and then find the matching 2 loops on the other side and go down through there. Pull it to tighten it up, but don't pull too tight. You don't want to like cinch it up too much. And you're just going to repeat that until you get a couple stitches, at least one more stitch down, finished. And then I'll show you how to sew the 3 layers together for that little overlapped part in the middle. So here's where our overlap starts. So you're going to take your top layer and you're going to go down through the corner, the very corner of that. So right here. Feed your yarn down through that. And then you're going to bring your yarn down through right here on the beginning of that row, or on the one side, the left side of the row. Bring it down through there. And then pull that. And then last, you're going to bring it down through the other side. And just pull again to tighten. And here's a yarn tail I'm just going to stuff up in there. We'll deal with those later. And then you're going to make one more stitch that is holding all 3 layers together. So the other, like on the side of that single crochet row right there. You're going to do the same thing again. Go down through the top layer, then down through the middle layer. It's kind of hidden inside here, so I'll show you. It's that corner. You want to make sure you're going right down through the corner of the bottom layer, or of the top bottom layer. I don't know how to word that. The inside layer there. Go down through the corner and then go through the other side. And pull it to tighten it up a little. And there we go. And you're just going to continue down the row like we did, just going through the 2 layers until you get all the way to the corner. Once you get to the corner, just go ahead and sew through like normal, making sure you're all the way in the edge there so there's no gap. And then once you get that last stitch done, I went ahead and tied a knot here. So I just looped the yarn around itself, and then before I tightened it, I went through and made sure it was not puckered or anything. I didn't need to adjust it. And once I knew it was good, I tightened that knot up, and then I just stuffed the end through to the other side. And you'll see I have a lot of excess, so don't cut yours a whole arm's length long. It's just too much. I'd probably do twice the length of the seam and it should be enough. Maybe a little more just to be safe. But then we're just going to flip it around and do the other side. So just stuff your pillow form back in if it's kind of trying to escape like mine was. And then you're just going to fold everything the same so it lines up with the other side. Make sure everything's even. And then again, I started over in my left corner and I did the exact same thing as I did on the other side and was just sewing up the side. But I'll show you how to do the overlap on this side since it's going the opposite direction. It's the same thing, it's just going in the opposite direction. So I went through the top layer and now I'm going through the corner of the bottom layer. And then we're going to pull it so everything lines up together. And then you're just going to go through the bottom layer. And pull it tight. And then real quick, I decided to weave in this yarn tail here, so you could do that real fast if you want. I was going to deal with it at the end, but I decided this one was in my way. So I wove it in and cut off the excess. and then we're going to do this corner. So you just go through the corner, and then bring the yarn down through the side of this stitch row right here, and then down through the bottom layer. And once you get that done, it's just the same thing. You're just gonna go all the way down to the corner. And once you get the last stitch done, you just tie a knot and then stuff the end through to the other side. And we will deal with that in a little bit. I just stuffed it inside. And now we're going to add a button, which is optional. You can also just tie it because you see it kind of wants to open up on you. So what I did to make sure it stayed closed is I got a pretty button I found, which is this big flower button. And I'm just going to sew that on right here, and that'll hold it closed. So I had to figure out where I wanted it. And once I was happy with my placement, I just kind of figured out how I wanted them to lay and said, okay, this is where the button needs to be. Then I grabbed some yarn that I had, just some acrylic yarn that was a similar color, and my large eye needle, and I had to make sure it fit through those holes on that button, so make sure that's the case. And then you're just going to sew your button in place. Nothing fancy. I just went through the back and did an X across, the 4 holes of the button. And I went ahead and did that twice. I didn't show it, but I went through all the holes twice just to make it extra, didn't want it to fall off. And then tie your ends in a really good knot. I did 3 times just to be safe. And then you can just cut off the excess yarn because it's going to be hidden on the inside anyways. If you want to weave it in, you can. I didn't. And then your button is on. You see, you can just button it closed, and you can honestly have that as your finished side, or you can have that on the other side. If you don't want to do a button, you could just do a piece of ribbon or something, but you'll probably want to keep that closed in some way. Now to finish this, we're just going to flip it kind of inside out, take our pillow form out, and then we're going to cut the way long excess yarn and just weave in your ends. And then do that with all of the ends, or at least the long ones. I didn't do it with the joins. I just left them the way they were. But you can if you want, and then you can just stick your pillow back inside, and it is finished. And then that way, if you ever want to wash it, you can just take it off, throw it in the washing machine. No big deal. Button it up. And this is seriously the softest, squishiest pillow cover you'll ever find. It's amazing. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and if you did, please leave a like, comment, and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of my future videos. Thanks for watching!